To ask questions is not to find an answer, but to discover.
During the past 4 decades, the talks and writings of Krishnamurti have stimulated and profoundly challenged audiences in Asia, Europe, and America. During a series of public talks given in the Ojai Valley in California, Krishnamurti, for the first time, permitted the presence of film cameras. This series of 8 programs is the result. As always, Krishnamurti addresses himself to questions which most directly affect our lives. The subject of this, the 5th program in the series, is What is Love?
Becomes naturally expectant, awaiting, and therefore not clear, decisive, and capable of discovery. And when one asks questions, one has to also to find out why one asks it. I feel one should ask questions about everything. But it matters very much why one is asking those questions. What is the background? What is the state of the mind that is asking those questions? Is it awaiting an answer or expecting to be told? If it is waiting for an answer, who is going to answer it? And a mind that is waiting to find the answer is not an active mind. It's just waiting, expecting. I think then, when we do put a question, it becomes very important. Then such questions have a catalytic effect. Such questions do produce an answer in themselves. So, let's proceed to find out what questions we're asking. We know what aggression is. We know what violence is, jealousy, and all the rest of it, which is again a form of energy, an expression of energy. And we must also find out, mustn't we, what love is. Now, how does one find out? Not if the energies are similar, but what love is. Is love pleasure, desire? Are you waiting for me to answer it? So how does one find out? Or is love an energy of in a different field altogether? Of a different quality, a different dimension. And how does one find out what love is? Not intellectually, not argumentatively, not splitting it up, saying divine, physical, and all the rest of it. How does one find out the nature of that thing? Will the conscious mind find it out? The conscious mind being the educated, sophisticated, the mind that has so many experiences, memories, stored up resentments, hatreds. Huh?
Love is a surplus when your own problems have been solved.
Love is a surplus when one's own problems are solved. We are trying to find that out, sir. Please, don't try to speculate what love is. That becomes childish. How does a mind come upon that thing without conscious effort? If I make a conscious effort to find it out, then my conscious effort must have a recognition of what it is. I must have already known it. I must already smelt it, tasted it, known the quality of it. And if I know it, it's merely a memory. And this memory which is of time and has that memory and time anything to do with love? To find out, all types of belief must come to an end. And therefore, which means all form of fear must come to an end. Surely? No? Belief is a form of hope. And I have hope because I'm in despair. And I invent a belief, a security, a state of mind which says there is something which is permanent. And I believe in that. And that belief, obviously, not only conditions all examination, all perception, but it prevents the total inaction. I must not only be free of every form of belief, and therefore fear, and also my mind must be so sharp, so sensitive. May the sensitivity brought about by right eating and, behavior and physical condition and all that. And then only there is a possibility of discovering something. So it seems to me, in the same way, to find out or come upon this thing called love, which is so heavily loaded. One must inquire into this question of pleasure and desire. You know, we're not trying to suppress desire. The monks throughout the world have tried that. And those so-called religious people have attempted to control desire because some authority, a religious authority, has said, be free of desire. Because desire leads to bondage. So, so-called spiritual people, whatever that word may mean, those people have tried to either to suppress, eliminate, or sublimate it by identifying themselves with a greater desire. But it's still within the pattern, within the area of desire. And what's wrong with a desire? I see something nice, pleasant, striking. By the very looking at it, there is a sensation, there is desire out of that. Isn't that so? Please, this is not a talk. We must. And thought comes and gives that desires a continuity and vitality. And from that, there is this seeking of pleasure. I think this is fairly simple, isn't it? The verbal explanation. But the explanation is not the fact. It's not what you discover. If you discovered it, it'll become tremendously vital. If I discover how thought strengthens desire by thinking about something which has pleased me, sensually or intellectually or a sunset or anything, by thinking about it, it has strengthened the nature of desire and has given it a continuity, and that continuity becomes pleasure. All our attitudes and values and demands are based on this search for comfort and pleasure. And is it possible for thought not to interfere? Now I see something very beautiful. And there's immediate sensation and a desire to touch it, to hold it, to own it, to possess it. Then thought comes in. And is it possible to look at something extraordinarily beautiful? Man, woman, child, tree, a house, a picture, whatever it is, and merely observe without the interference of thought. And when thought interferes, there is a totally different kind of action. As when thought doesn't interfere with desire. You understand? Right? You understand? When thought interferes with the desire, which becomes pleasure, then activity has a different meaning altogether. Action. And when thought doesn't interfere with desire, there is again a totally different action which is not time-binding. So all this is, we are inquiring, aren't we, into the nature or come upon that thing that you call love. And we're asking if that love is something not of the same energy as hate. We must bear that in mind, otherwise we will wander away from the central question. And to answer that question, really, one has to, hasn't one, to free the mind from desire and pleasure, to find out. The gentleman asks how. Is there a how? Is there a method? Listen to the questions. Is there a method to free the mind from pleasure? Huh? And the following of a method in order to achieve the result is again based on pleasure. No? So there is no how. There is only a state of listening. And when one listens so totally, this question is answered. You see, first of all, sir, how do you look at anything totally? You say it's not possible, and when you say it is not possible, you have already blocked yourself from finding out. So to find out, you have to look at your own mind, looking at your friend or somebody, or at a tree, how you look at it. Why do we create an image of another and hold it? And is it not possible at the moment of experience to live it so completely, or so let it go through you so that no image remains, no mark remains? Please, these are all questions that are really have to be answered not by words, but by actual direct perception and discovery. And to find out anything new requires tremendous inquiry, meditation. You don't just get it by just coming to a meeting for an hour and thinking one has to work tremendously hard. You do work very hard to earn a livelihood, to go to the office every day. But this requires much more alertness, much more careful examination. And one doesn't have the energy, the patience, or the interest, because this is non-profitable. It doesn't bring you any profit, financial or any other thing.
Love for permanent escape of suffering.
Do we know what suffering is? Do you really know what suffering is? Only we know it when we remain with it, right? We don't remain with anything. Oh Lord, huh? Do we? We think about it. Let us take the question of suffering. Is it, first of all, is it possible to end it? Totally, without becoming hard, brutal, brittle, and all the rest of it. And to go to the very end of it and find out. Can we do that one thing this afternoon? Huh? Shall we? I suffer. Why do I suffer? And what is this nature of suffering? I suffer because I've lost my son, my brother, sister, or somebody doesn't love me, or I cannot fulfill, or I'm thwarted. I haven't got a good brain and somebody else has a good brain. And I know what it means to suffer. In suffering there is a great deal of self-pity. And suffering, I want to escape from it. Because I don't know how to resolve it. And so I have a network of escapes. Now, can I stop from escaping? And it's very difficult because escaping is so subtle. I can escape by turning on the radio, magazine, talking to somebody, and so on, but the thing remains. And I don't want to get in touch with it. It's too painful, too agonizing. I push it away. So can I stop from escaping altogether? Just look at it, live with it, know it. Not suppress it, not control it, not sublimate it, not do all that kind of idiotic stuff, but get to know it, live with it, go into it.
You say, be quiet. You do give an answer. And then, why just be quiet? Why not speak? Why not see? Why not hear? Why not do? Why not think?
So we went into that. We have thought a great deal about suffering. Volumes have been written by religious people and all the rest of it. And yet we suffer. Suffering apparently is a daily affair. And a man asks, is it possible to end it? And when it says, please tell me how to end it, then is that thinking? Is that examining? Or you're merely wanting a result which will be greatly pleasurable. When the suffering ends, obviously you think it'll be tremendous pleasure. There'll be great pleasure. So one follows the method in order to have that pleasure. But there is no understanding of suffering. And so, when there is no understanding of suffering, it comes in another form. So what we are trying to do is to find out for oneself whether it is possible to end this thing that we call suffering, in which is involved self-pity, loneliness, all that.
In order to understand suffering?
Is it necessary to suffer in order to understand? In order to understand. I think Christianity has made suffering into something holy. By suffering, we say we're going to, reach heaven. I think a mind that suffers is the most stupid mind. Doesn't end it. So please, sir, we'll come back. What is it we're asking about? What is we're all wanting to find out? What is the mind when it is not quiet? All right. Most of our minds are not quiet, are they? Ceaselessly agitated, active, thinking about something, or soliloquizing, talking to itself, imagining. It is endlessly restless, isn't it? Hmm? And how do we know any quiet when a mind is so restless? And it may be the nature of the mind never to be quiet. And why are we so restless? Especially modern world. My tendency, my demand for a particular satisfaction has not been satisfied. I'm always seeking something which will give me immense satisfaction, and I know there isn't any. So the restless mind may be the result of a neurological state, or restless because we haven't found an answer to anything. An answer in the deep sense of the word to fundamental issues. Therefore, it's nothing to do. It's like a leaf driven all over the place. And without understanding the nature of one's own thinking, which is self-knowing, quietness of the mind is not possible. And to know oneself is the beginning of wisdom. Not in a book, not in psychology, prophet, all that. Wisdom is in knowing oneself. It comes out of the soil of self-knowing.
This has been the fifth of 8 programs presenting the talks of Krishnamurti. Subsequent programs in this series are titled Questioning, Living and Death, and The End of Conflict.
This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.
Solutions to the problems in ourselves.
Obviously, because you're the man who's going to suffer. You're the man who's going to... Exactly. You are the person who's going to have all the problems of life.
This series of talks by Krishnamurti represents the first time that he has permitted any of his talks or public appearances to be filmed. This program, titled Questioning, was filmed at the Thatcher School in the Ojai Valley in California.
As we learned last week, and now presented to you, Mr.
All the things we talked about the other morning. You know, it is really quite difficult to ask questions. And one must ask questions right through life. The more we ask, the greater the understanding between our souls and our life. And also, we should, I think, in all asking questions and in replying and understanding of the question, one should have a spot of skepticism. One can ask questions intellectually, argumentatively, to sharpen one's own brains at the expense of somebody else. So, I hope you'll ask lots of questions. But to ask a question, it must be the right question. A wrong question will inevitably have no answer at all. But a right question, in the very asking of it, unfolds the understanding of it. And to ask right questions needs a great deal of intelligence, a great sensitivity, and a comprehension of the immense complexity of life. Anybody can ask a question. That's the easiest thing to do. But to ask the right question and to go to the very end of that question, not verbally or intellectually or merely emotionally, but as a whole, as a total problem and a total issue. So I hope we can ask questions and see how far we can get together on that.
There's probably great hunger in India, as you said in your talk a couple of days ago. And I think I want to do something about it. And so I go to India, and I try to help the people, and I try to help them overcome their hunger and things of this nature. But is it really doing that much good?
You're going or my going to India and helping a little bit here and there doesn't get anywhere. You might give food for half a dozen people. Do your best, but you can't. There are 470 million people, and doing a little bit there. It doesn't. I'm not laughing at it. It doesn't get anywhere. Now, what will solve the problem? What is the problem? Hunger. Hunger, lack of clothes, shelter, all that. Now, how is it going to be solved? Not by a particular nation. As you and I can't solve it, if we went in India, we couldn't solve it. No sovereign government is going to solve it. No Indian government is going to solve it. They can pretend, and they do. So, what is preventing the solution of this problem is nationalism. My flag, my country, your country, and the division that takes place geographically, which is exploited by the politicians. That is the factor, one of the major factors of preventing the solution of starvation, of feeding the people. Now, science has means of giving food, clothes, and shelter practically to everybody. It's not being done because of you are a British, I'm an Indian or Russian. We have our ideology and you have your ideology. Your king and my king, your army and my army, all that's preventing us. So it's a world problem, not individual or nationalistic?
How do you suppose that we'll be able to overcome these nationalistic barriers?
First, one has to be free of it oneself. Wait. One has to be free of it oneself. Neither American nor Indian nor right. Then get up and talk, shout, do anything for the not for the little things, but for the major issues. Then perhaps you will sow some seed that will take root. Now, if every human being, educated, cultured, who is really serious, wants to solve this problem, he will do something. Like war. We have accepted war as the way of life. All man has, throughout centuries. And to stop war, if one is concerned with the whole process of living as a human being, then perhaps we'll be able to solve this question of war.
We spoke last week of man achieving a clarity of mind and a broader view of life. But it would seem to me that one could achieve this clarity of mind and a greater, deeper understanding of life if you were to try to attack a certain part of it and then see the result and therefore understand what happened more deeply. And
so that's I understand. You mean there are these fragments, business, religious, political, science, and so on, fragments. Now, and you, by going through each fragment, you would understand the whole thing. Participation of it in each fragment. Now, you know what that implies? How long it would take for each person, for every individual to take each fragment and go through it, understand it? Impossible, isn't it? Completely impossible. And therefore, they say, let us put all these fragments together. Which again is impossible. You can't, by through fragments, make the whole. So, how do you then understand something totally? First of all, let's be clear, a fragment can never make the whole, right? And putting the fragments together is not the whole. And also, that it is not necessary to go through all these, right? Through all the fragments. It's like saying you must get drunk to understand what sobriety is. And then that life is too short. You can't go through all of it. So if that is clear, then how does one see the whole of something? Whole of life including sorrow, death, love, family, politics, economics, amusement, entertainment, the misery, all that. How do you see the whole? You go into it. How do you see it? How would you, if that was a question, a serious question you have to tackle? Wait. Moment you say you cannot or can, you're finished. You stop investigating. When you say I can't, you have blocked yourself.
But you can understand more.
Not by blocking yourself. Look, sir, if I say there is no God, I've blocked myself, haven't I? Or if I say there is God, I've blocked myself. But if I say I really don't know, let's find out, then I have the energy to go into it. Right? Now, so don't let's say yes or no. Don't let's take sides about it. Now, how would you see the totality of something, of life? You know, get a grasp of the feeling of it, a touch of it, a smell of it.
As I said, by trying to take more and more of it and understand more and more of it.
You have no time.
I know, that's the problem.
That's the problem, of course.
You're saying
That's what I
you can't
said.
go that way.
That's what I said in the beginning. I mean, if I take time, you know, it'd be impossible. So now, eliminate time. You follow what we are doing? We are eliminating time, gradually, get it? We are also eliminating fragmentary approaches, right? And also we are eliminating the idea that when we put them all together, we'll get an understanding. You have approached this problem with the habitual tools, and you have eliminated those tools. Not because you are prejudiced against them, but you see that they won't answer. Now, when you have eliminated them because they do not answer, your mind is sharper, isn't it?
If you're on the right track.
Of course, you have eliminated. Right? Your mind is very sharp because it is no longer following the traditional approach. Right?
Well, you must have some experience.
No. To see the whole thing, you need a very sharp mind, very clear mind. A mind that's not biased. A mind that says, this I like this, I don't like it.
Mind that isn't a pattern or expects to be that. It won't ever see the complete truth. But does that necessarily mean that the mind that is free will see the truth?
If you want to see the view of that valley from the hill, you take a survey of the whole thing, don't you? That means your mind is no longer merely fixed on the Thatcher school or a particular school. You look at the whole valley. So here is a whole complex map of life. Business, all the rest of it. Very complex. And to understand the whole of that, you must be free to look. But you cannot look if you say, well, it must be, you can only look at it through a fragmentary approach. Therefore, we say, free the mind from fear. As long as there is fear, that fear will take shelter in a belief. Christian or doesn't matter what belief. Because fear demands comfort, security, hope, and all the rest of it. So, being afraid of something, death or something else, that fear must take shelter in something. Therefore, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, or some other belief, is the same. All beliefs are the same. Because they're essentially born out of this fear. So really the question is, can fear be eliminated altogether? And that's why the religions of the ancient cultures have said, believe, not know.
Illuminate
when the mind is afraid of death. When I'm afraid of you.
But you can't get rid of your fear unless you know what
Wait. I'm afraid of you. And therefore, I always take shelter. I never look at you. Right? I barricade myself, I invent a lot of ideas, prevent myself from looking at you, right? I can only look at you when I have no fear. And what am I afraid of? Not of death, but of something I have known. My family, my job, my daily routine, the things I have. And I'm afraid of losing them.
I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
It's really quite a complex problem. It's not just my fault or your fault. I think opinion has very little place when we are faced with direct things of life. Most of us are guided by our personal inclination or personal idiosyncrasy or compelled by circumstances, which are all very small affairs. But a problem like death is a problem of man. Whether he lives in China, India, or Russia, or here, it's a problem which man has struggled with through centuries upon centuries. And the Egyptians, say, for instance, lived. For them, death was much more important than living. And there are whole communities right through the world, historically and also when one has lived in a country like India, where culture is very, very ancient. There are all kinds of ideas, beliefs, dogmas about death. Death being that one is frightened of that thing called death, which is going to put an end to everything. So they invent theories, like reincarnation, you know something about it. Either you choose that or the Christian belief, which depends upon your conditioning. If you are a Christian, naturally brought up in a Christian world, you will accept that, the Christian dogma. Now, if one can put aside the Asiatic belief and the Christian belief and every form of personal hope and despair, and then we can investigate the meaning of death. You see, as long as there is fear, the unknown, death, becomes a tragic affair. I don't know. So, is it possible first to eliminate psychological fear altogether? That's quite a, I won't go into all that. Unless that is done systematically, with clarity, without any arrière-pensée, without any holding back from this problem of fear, then one can go into this question of fear. Very, very deep. But otherwise you're caught in a rationalization, or in the whole of the Asian belief of reincarnation, or Christian, or you don't care. But it seems to me a society or a community or a group of people who are not concerned with death, have no foothold in life. You know what I mean? Have nothing. and therefore they become terribly superficial. That's what's happened in this country. Terribly mundane, physical, and no culture can stand that.
Do you agree that the fear of death is the fear of losing your possessions, the joy of life?
Partly.
Well, if that's so, then the person who has reached the state of clarity, who has cast off all his fears and fear of death, therefore he wouldn't, the joy of life wouldn't mean anything to him. Is that?
Now, wait a minute. Why not? How do you lose the fear of death?
Why not hearing this?
No. There must be much more positive reaction than that. You must die every day. Die every day to the things that you call pleasure and pain, to the things which you have cherished, die. Otherwise, what? Well, look at her. What are you? A little bundle of memories, aren't you? Huh? Experience, knowledge, information. And that you carry on all the day long, all the years. And that bundle of memories keeps the mind very dull, stupid, not fresh. But if you say, well, I'll put away all my bundles. Each day, your mind is strong, alert.
If you were to do this, die every day, and sit along with fear, clarity of mind, and sharp mind, would not you think be completely isolated from anything in the world?
All right. Why should you be? Why should you not be isolated? What is the point?
It can be very good, but then if you are going to do anything with this clarity of mind, such as change the world order,
Then you will change it. Then you will talk, right? But you won't belong to the messy world.
in order to change it, you do have to approach a part of it. For instance,
Approach, again, take the whole of it, not just parts of it. Tackle the whole issue, not just one part, partial issue. So look.
so far no one has been able to do this.
Oh, then let's do it.
And you said that we have to approach everything with an open mind and we mustn't take any point of view. But if we get confused, we'll judge. Well, when you approach, say, what is life with an open mind, you start, and then you get one fragment you won't understand. You'll question it, and then you'll become confused, and then you'll have to judge. Well, how are we supposed to do this without...
First of all, they're contradictory informations. One propagandist says one thing, another propagandist says another. The priest says something, and the businessman, the military man, and the politician, everybody is contradicting the other, and you, and people generally, are the recipient of all that contradiction. Right? So what do you do? And no, you realize you are the result of all these contradictions. How can you judge when I'm... No, I suggest, first of all, is it possible not to be influenced at all? No, don't say no. You see, the moment you say no, you've already taken a stand. Is it possible not to be influenced? And that's very difficult because we are the result of thousand influences. Food, climate, and the culture in which you are born, and so on, so on. And we are the result of this terrific pressure and strains and influences. And I am that, you are that. And so how do you free yourself first from the influence, from your conditioning, and then you can ask the question, how am I to keep clear all the time of confusion? Then it's very simple, you're not confused.
If we think that Jesus is the Son of God, it limits us. If we think that he was some man who talked wisely and tried to teach people, it helps us to understand him better. Do you think so?
I should think so. No, to me, you see, sir, that's not very great importance. What is great importance is not what somebody said or somebody did or did not. Can I, as a human being, lead a different kind of life? That's all. That is the crucial point. Not what Buddha, all those people have said. Well, may be true, may not be true. What is important, what is essential and urgent is, can I live a different life altogether?
This has been the 6th of 8 programs presenting Krishnamurti, whose extraordinary approach to the fundamental questions of our time has attracted wide attention in Europe, Asia, and America. This program was filmed at the Thatcher School in California. The concluding 2 programs in this series are called Living and Death and The End of Conflict.
This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.
The